Hey everyone, it's Tammy. Welcome back to my craft room here at Creative Girl Vintage for another project. So last week I made a little garden fairy junk journal and I used for the cover a really old vintage quilt. And so this week I was inspired to make a mini quilt. So this one here is actually a hanging decoration. The back of it is supported by some chipboard, and the top of it is just layered in all kinds of little fabric scraps and lace. And it was also inspired by moms. Moms are the buttons that hold it all together. No truer statement has ever been made. I'm sure you guys will agree with me on that one. So this is really pretty. There's a lot of little hand stitches that we're going to do on this. And so it makes it a really relaxing project too. So let me gather up what we're going to use and let's make our own vintage inspired mini quilt. All right, before we start stitching our mini quilt, we're going to cut a piece of chipboard to support everything. So this will just have something to lay on, to hang up, and give it the support that it needs. I did this in a little house shape because for me, if you think about mom and you think about cozy quilts, you kind of think about home, right? Okay, so we're doing a little house shape today. I'm going to be using this chipboard. It's an 8.5 by 11. It says it's 0.50 thick. Any supply that I'm using today, I will link below for you in the description, so that way you can find it. This is a little piece I was working on here. I'm going to lay it on my cutting mat, and I just decided ahead of time, this is something that's totally up to you. I thought 3 by 6 would be a nice size. Okay, so I laid my chipboard down on my mat. I'm measuring out 3 inches here, and got my little knife. Make sure you're lined up so everything comes out straight. And this takes a couple passes. This is kind of thick. Be sure you're putting some good pressure on the hand that's holding down the ruler, so nothing's slipping on you. All right, there's our 3 inches. So let's lay this here and do 6 inches. Cutting mat makes things a little easier. There we go. Okay. So what I want to do next is we're going to make a little pattern. This just kind of makes things come out even. We're going to use the pattern for our chipboard, and we're also going to use it again for our fabric. Just makes things easier. So I've got a little scrap piece of paper here, nothing fancy. Let me just lay it here, and we're going to pretty much do exactly what we did with the chipboard. Let's measure out 3 inches. Paper cuts a lot quicker. And then let's measure out 6 inches. All right. So those 2 pieces are the same. And look, guys, nothing has to be perfect here. You know, if you're a little bit off, it really doesn't matter. I'm going to take this and I'm just going to fold it in half and take my scissors, and on the folded side, on the point, I want to make like a little house roof. This is totally up to you where you want to, how deep you want to make this little cut here, but I'm basically just taking my scissors and going right to that point. That way my little roof is equal on both sides. I've tried doing this before with measuring, and I just don't have the patience for that. So I am just making myself a little pattern here. Let's take a pencil and make a mark on our chipboard, like so with our pattern. We're going to set this aside because we're going to use that again for our fabric. And just get your ruler out here, and if you're me, put your glasses on and line up your ruler on that pencil mark. And let's just make our little house peaks. Right there, like so. And like I said, this doesn't have to be perfect. It's nice to come out nice and even, isn't it? Okay. All right. We're going to set this aside. We're going to get out our fabric, and let's go to the next step. Okay, we've got some fabric, and we're ready to roll. Like any traditional quilt, there will be 2 pieces of fabric with a piece of quilt batting sandwiched in between. The quilt batting I'm using today is called Warm and Natural, and it is just that. It is very warm and very natural. You can find this at any fabric store. It will be with the quilt batting, the quilting supplies. And it's a beautiful thing to work with. I've actually made a lot of things through the years just using this, and not for quilting. So it's just really fun to have on hand. I'm using some scraps that I had. This is a little floral, and the quilt batting is in between here. And when I pulled these out, I noticed that I had coffee dyed them. And you can see the difference here when you coffee dye this Warm and Natural. You can see how that kind of takes on a whole new look. You don't have to coffee dye. It's just what I had on hand. One of these days I'll do a little video for you. Super easy to coffee dye fabric if you haven't did it already. So I'm going to lay down my first piece of fabric, nice side facing out, put down my batting and my other piece of fabric right on top of that. So on both sides, the pretty side of the fabric is facing out. Okay. And here is our cute little house pattern. And I know this piece of fabric's a little big and it seems wasteful, but I just wanted you guys to be able to see everything. You definitely don't need a lot of scraps to do this. You know, you can do it with little pieces of scraps. That's what's fun about it. I'm going to take a couple pins. I'm just going to hook our pattern on right here, just so it doesn't move on me. Let's grab some scissors, and I'm not gonna follow this right at the edge. I'm gonna go around maybe about a 1/2 inch out, like so, just so it's kind of hanging over the edge, and it has a real nice little look to it. Let's get a little bit more pointy there. Oops. I didn't get very pointy. There, that looks good. Okay, go down this way and do a little cut like so. These are nice. I save everything, but it comes in handy, right? Doing little projects like this. Okay, so here we go. Here is our little house shape. I'm going to grab a needle and thread. I know this needle looks a little bit bigger than probably you would use, but I just want you guys to be able to see. And if you haven't ever tied a knot at the end of some thread, I know a lot of you are getting started crafting, so I like to cover all the bases. And some of you are probably like rolling your eyes like, yeah, right. But anyway, just grab your thread right here and roll it around your finger and roll it off like so, and just pull it down. And there you have a knot at the end of your thread to get started. So what we're going to do is we're going to start here right at the bottom, and let's pull that through, and we are going to stitch all the way around. I'm going to use a super easy stitch, you guys. So I'm going to go back down in and then bring it right back up and back down in again. And I love how easy this is, and I love it for several reasons. One, you can control the size of stitch that you want. You can do big stitches, little tiny stitches. You can control the space that you want between your stitches. It's just all up to you. And plus, when I do this, I find this to be kind of mesmerizing and very relaxing. So it's just an enjoyable way to do this little project for sure. I wanted to give a shout out to one of my subscribers, Linda. Linda left me such a beautiful comment about how she binge watches my videos and how much it's inspired her crafting. And that really meant a lot to me. And it got me moving this morning, I have to say, and re-energized me. And I needed that. So Linda, thank you. And really all of you with your amazing comments and how you feel more inspired, and just that, that I could do what I love and you guys love it too. That really means a lot. And I have a lot of gratitude for that. So thank you. Thank you. Just want you to know that I truly appreciate this little crafting community that we've got over here. You guys are the best. So I'm going to continue what I'm doing, and I'm going to work my way all the way around this little house, and I will meet you guys back over here in this corner. All right, you guys, we're going to put the last 2 stitches here in the corner, and then I'll show you how I tie this off on the back. Okay, stitched all the way around, and I will just go under my last stitch, or just nip a little piece of fabric there, pull my needle through, and I have a loop. I'm just going to pull my needle through that loop, and there, all tied off. Okay, so I want to grab some scraps now, and just to decorate this up. I've got a little scrap of lace here. I can lay right there. I love to layer all these beautiful fabrics on here. How about if we take, just cut us off a little piece here, and we'll make a little window up here at the top. Little window, and then maybe layer some of this on here. This is the piece that our buttons are going to be sewn to. Let's see what we got. Okay, like so. And then I've got this little scrap right here, and it's so pretty. It has little tiny roses on there. I'm going to cut out one of those, and that would be pretty right in the middle of our window, wouldn't it? I like that. That's really cute. Okay, so what we're going to do here, this is, like I said, there's a lot of stitching going on here, you guys. Let's go ahead and make another knot in our thread. Probably going to have to reload soon, but that's okay. Let me move our little window here. I'm just going to start right here, and just like we did all the way around our quilt piece, I am going to do that with these little scrap pieces. I'm going to stitch each one of them on. You know, my mother was a quilter, and she definitely thought out, her patterns, her fabric choices, and they were some beautiful quilts. Probably my favorite quilt of all time from her were the ones where she used all of her scraps. And she just made these beautiful homespun patchwork quilts. And, I just, this time of year, especially when I'm making little things from Mother's Day, and I really miss my mom. And she was so special and so creative. But one of the things that I did learn from her is that all of these little stitches, every one of them, just represented love for someone. And the person that received them really could feel it. Can really feel the love in the stitches. So I'm going to continue to go all the way around this little scrap piece here, and I'm going to go up to the window, and when I'm finishing up the window, I will meet you over here in the corner. All right, I'm finishing up this little corner of the window here, and let me tie that off in the back. I'm not being very fussy about my back looking super neat, since this is going to be attached to that chipboard. Okay, that off of there. Now the next thing we're going to do is let's grab some some buttons. And I have a lot of jars of vintage buttons, so I just went through and picked out a couple things that I thought would be pretty on here. If you don't have vintage buttons, the fabric store and even the craft stores have gorgeous cards of buttons. So, you know, there's always options. Or if you're throwing away an old sweater or blouse, take the buttons off and stick them in your button jar. Okay, so sewing on the buttons, pretty simple. I'm going in from the back here, and let's find that hole, and simply back down to the other side. Probably one pass through would hold it, because there's not really any stress going on with these buttons, but I'm going to do 2 just to keep it in place. At this point, you can go ahead and tie it off in the back, or I'm going to lay my next button here and go straight over to it, since we don't care if our back looks messy. Okay. So, easy peasy, as my granddaughter says. We will sew on our buttons across the front here. All right, you guys, I'm finishing the last button. I hope you don't mind that I didn't just keep the camera rolling the whole time, but I didn't want the video to run for hours. And you know, you guys, when you're sitting there watching someone stitching, you definitely could be dozing off. So we don't want to be dozing off. All right, I'm just tying this off the back. And we have our little buttons sewed on. Isn't that cute? It's very eclectic. Love that look. Now, I printed this off on the computer. It was on Google Documents. I just wrote the words out. Moms are the buttons that hold it all together. And I'm just going to cut out each word. I just printed this out on some cardstock, so it had a little strength to it. I just got something on that. Hold on a second. Let me grab another one. All right, sorry about that, guys. I went and printed out another one. And for the record, that was blood. So I guess I jammed myself with the needle and didn't realize it. So, hey, it's perfectly okay if you bleed all over your work, right? just have to print out another one. Okay, I'm going to lay these in place here just so we have a look at where this is going. After I did this, I was thinking this would even be cute to take a muslin fabric and use your alphabet stamps and sew around them. That would be really pretty too. So we're just going to do it with these letters today, because this is cute as well. Okay, there we go. I'm going to grab my distress ink, and I feel like this really makes this paper very vintagey and very pretty. Just kind of goes with the whole vintage quilt feel. So it was worth taking the time just to ink these up a little bit. Okay. It's always a little extra step that I add. Okay. Now I'm going to use Fabrifix for this to attach these little guys on here. And you can lay this out any way that you like. Oh, this is really cute, isn't it? Okay, press that down. There we go. Okay. All right. There, isn't that cute? Okay, so in the example I showed you when we first started, I actually, at this point, went back in with my needle and thread and I stitched all around all of these words. So that's like a little optional thing. You know, once you're stitching, you may want to just keep going. Okay, and you know, I also added, let me see what I got here. I added a little flower. Let's see. Had some of these little tiny flowers. And I just put a little flower right there as well. Actually, I'm just going to grab hot glue real quick. And just put that right there. It's just a little extra something. And this is a piece of an old lace. And what I'm going to do here is flip this over and run this like along the sides. So when you flip it, you can see that lace. And you know, it just adds just another layer. And I love the layers to this. So this lace I noticed had like a scalloped edge, and it had this little edge here, which I sort of liked a little bit better. They're both cute though. So let me go. Do a little bit on this side. I'm gonna say hot glue is probably not the best thing to use to do this, but I just thought it would just speed it up just for the sake of a video. You can use your Fabrifix. Put that on. The hot glue wants, of course, to come through. I'm going to use the scallop on the bottom. Wants to come through and stick to your fingers, of course. And it can be a little stringy. When I started doing this, I was thinking, oh, this is such a sweet little stitched piece. I really don't want to use hot glue on it. But since we're on the back, we'll use a little hot glue. And this right here looks like it has some rustiness on it, so I'm going to get rid of that. A lot of the times when you get the old lace or ribbon at the flea market, it will have old pins in it, which will rust. So then it comes through on all the layers of your ribbon or your lace. You know, it's just been sitting there all those years with that pin in there. Okay. All right. Oh, look at that, you guys. Isn't that sweet? Okay, so let me grab my wire and we are going to take and attach our chipboard to our piece. All right, please don't laugh at my wire. Look at this wire, you guys. I think I got this like 20 years ago at some hardware store in the automotive section or something. I don't know. I just liked how it felt and how it bent. So, but if you're looking for wire, may I suggest the craft store in the jewelry making section. It pretty much, you can get just about any gauge and even colors of wire that you desire. All right, I'm going to take my little awl and just going to put, be sure you're on your cutting mat here so you're not jamming this into the table. I'm just going to put some holes right here for the wire to go through. Don't get too close to the edge. I made the mistake of doing that. And when I did this, it broke through on the side. Oh, you learn, don't you? I'm just going to slip my wire in and bend it. You know, if you want to make a bigger hole and use a ribbon as well, that would be fine. Some jute would be cute. Okay. Got that ready. And here is our quilted piece that we're going to lay on top. So let's see where we're at here. You can use your Fabrifix for this, which I think I will, instead of the hot glue. So let's just glue this thing up here. Try to get close to the edges. All right. And let's lay it right here in the center, in the back. And you can flip it just to make sure your little hanger is where it needs to be. Ah, isn't that sweet? Well, moms are truly the buttons that hold it all together, and this makes just an absolutely adorable Mother's Day gift. You can change this up too to sisters or best friends, or whatever it is that's special to you. These are great if you want to make them for a craft show, if you're doing something in the spring. So, you guys, I hope you enjoyed this project as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I love our craft time together. And let me know in the comments if you make one of these. And you could also share with me on my Instagram at Creative Girl Vintage anytime you make a project. And I love seeing what you're doing. So if you haven't subscribed to my channel already, I hope you do so. There's always a video coming for a new project. Thank you again. Have a beautiful day, and I will see you guys soon.